Hello everyone and welcome back to my subscribers. If you're not already a subscriber, I'll put a link here for you. In this video, I'm going to show you how to bypass the magazine safety that comes in the GSG and Sig 1911-22 pistols. It's a very simple procedure. Pretty much anyone can do it if you have the know-how, and I'm going to give you the know-how here. I'm also going to take it a little step further, and I'm going to replace the mainspring housing with a flat one. The one that comes in the gun is an arched one, and I prefer the flat myself, as do a whole bunch of other folks. So I'm going to show you how to replace that as well. This is just a standard 1911 flat mainspring housing. You can pretty much buy any of them, buy them anywhere pretty much. But when you do, go ahead and order the 1911 mainspring retainer pin as well, because the one that comes with the GSG is different from this, and it will not work with the 1911 one. So you will have to buy this. So when purchasing parts for your GSG and Sig 1911, buy the pin as well as whatever mainspring housing you want to replace in it. In case you were wondering, this is my GSG Open gun. It's a project I've been working on for a while now. I'm trying to get it set up for my son. He's fairly little still. Hands are real small, so I'm going to replace the trigger here with a much shorter trigger for smaller hands. I'll put a link to some videos I've done on 1911 on adjustment on triggers and such. It kind of falls into place with replacing this trigger here. So far, most of this is still stock. And also, this has a prototype compensator from Shock Bottle. Really unsure if he's going to sell this or not. There's a lot of machining involved, and the cost is fairly high. And I don't really want to sell anything that's super outrageous to you guys, or he doesn't either. Because you know what? When it comes to money, everybody's cheap. And if it's just too much to spend, it's just too much to spend for the general public. But this is a prototype. It's pretty cool. I like it. It mimics my 38 Super pretty well. And I think it's going to be a great training tool compared to my 38 Super for cost especially. I've mounted a red dot on this thing. This is also just like my 38 Super that I used for IPSC competition. You may have seen the previous videos like the double tap. I'll put links to that stuff here for you. Also, I'm going to replace the grip safety right here. I've done a previous video on replacing the grip safety on the other GSG, and I'll put a link to that as well. If you don't like this, and I really don't care for this one at all, replacing that is a great choice for you, and it's fairly simple to do as well. So let's get started. The magazine, obviously, is the Shock Bottle +1. It gives you one extra round in the chamber, or one extra round in the magazine. And then I have the +4 follower. So together, this gives you 15 rounds in the magazine and one in the gun for a total of 16 rounds. Pretty cool deal. I'll put a link to it in the video description below. So first thing you need to do is make sure your hammer is down all the way in order to get this mainspring housing. With it cocked, it's going to put some pressure on the mainspring housing, and it's going to be very difficult to get this out. So make sure your hammer is down. So looking on this side, you'll notice that this little pin right here, it's got a divot or a little dimple in it. And this side does not. We want to hammer on this side right here. I'm going to use some really basic tools. Let me bring down the zoom a little bit. I'm going to use a brass punch. I prefer the brass punch because it doesn't seem to mar the surface as much. I'm going to put a piece of plastic underneath my screwdriver here, and I'm just going to punch this out. It'll pop right out. So here's our little pin. We'll set this aside. We don't want to lose it. And then, let me back up on the zoom here a little bit. We'll pull. I'm going to grab a hold of the grip safety. You can put a rubber band around this. Kind of helps to keep everything in place. But I'm going to pull it out. And you'll notice there's a little tab right here. Putting this thing back together, if you are to decide to put this back in, you want to get that underneath the stock grip safety. But we're going to take it out all the way because I don't want it anymore. It's quite a pain, quite a hassle. So this is your grip safety that comes with the GSG in 1911, or Sig 1911 as well. These two pieces right here are what cause you to initiate the grip, or the magazine safety rather. So we're going to pull this out. It just comes right out, piece of metal. Put it in a bag, throw it in the box, whatever you want to do with it. Throw it away. I like to keep the spare parts, and then remove this spring right here because you won't need that. So if you were putting this gun back together, take that out. Make sure our hammer strut is in the middle right here. And I've done this on a few 1911s before. I got a couple of videos on assembly instructions. I'll put links to those for you here. So then we'll take our hammer strut, make sure it's in the center, and then push up the grip safety while the hammer strut is, we basically want it to go right in that little dimple hole right there. So I'm going to shake it, move it around, there we go. We've got it all back together, and then we'll hammer that pin back through. Hammering the pin works well with a punch. You want to be careful hammering it with the grips on, because you'll mar the grips a little bit. I usually use the punch to follow it through, but that's about it. So like I said, in this video I want to put the flat mainspring in. So this is where we take this away, and looking closely at it, this is the retainer pin that you have to replace. This is the one that we're going to use from a standard 1911 right here. And then this is some of the components we need to get out. So what we need to do is take a punch, zoom in down here. So I'm going to work down here on the ground. Okay. And I'm going to depress this. There's a spring in there. It's under tension. So I'm going to press this down, press it into the mainspring housing, and hopefully we'll try to get that little pin to fall right out. That retainer pin on the side. You see it's already started to move. So I'm going to shake it, see if it comes out. Maybe hit it with my punch. There it came. It fell right out. So remember, the spring's under tension. So we're going to pull this out. This is our main spring. This is the little detent. When you put this pin back in the grips, it's going to fall right in the middle and fall in that groove right there. So this is important as well. So we'll take this away, put it in the box with the components, the safety components. We don't need them anymore. Then we'll take our new mainspring, we'll take our little component that came out last, we'll drop it in, take our mainspring, clean it up if you want. This is the original grease that came with the gun, and then I'm going to put it right in like so. I like to use the mainspring that came with the gun because I know it makes the gun work. This is what puts the power behind the spring, which power behind the hammer, which sets your primer off. So if you start changing these spring weights around, you may get failures to feed and all kinds of issues. So there we are right there. Let me open our bag real quick. Get out our new 1911 mainspring retainer pin. I have a stainless steel one. It was the only one available at the time. So we'll push it in from the front right here, or the flat side. So I'm going to get it started. And then in the meantime, see if I can do this. I'm putting pressure on it with my thumb, and I'm going to press this all the way down, as far down as I can. Try it again. Alright, so it's not going in. So what's happening here, and this is a problem with most guns that you try to fit stuff on. We have a very cheap 1911 component where the hole is not drilled out all the way through. So I'm going to grab a drill bit. I'm going to knock that hole out a little bit more, just like that. I think I bought this from CD&N for like $10. I figure, what's the point spending a lot of money on something, you know, like an EGW or something, or Wilson Combat. So let's try it again. Get it started, get our punch, push it down, still not going through. So this is the price you pay. Alright, so we're going to have to get a bigger drill bit, kind of waller that out. There it is. Got a nice chunk of metal in there. Let's test fit that bad boy. Still nothing. I'm going to go a little bigger. And if you're watching my videos, this is the kind of stuff I like to show, the problems you run into, real life stuff. Because anybody can show the real simple stuff. Oh yeah, it goes right in. I once watched a video where the guy was taking an A2 front gas block off an AR-15 and it just popped right out, and I was like, it's not happening like that. They are a lot harder than you think. Alright, so here we go. So we've got our pin started, pushing down the main spring, push that pin in the retainer. So we're almost in. You can see it's not quite lining up. There it goes. All right, so there we go. So we've got our mainspring retainer pin in. See how it pokes through on the other side a little bit, and then we've got our mainspring all attached in there. So now we're ready to put this together. We back out a little bit with the camera. Remember, when you go in to put this together, you want that hammer strut right here. And once again, I have an assembly instruction video on the 1911. I'll put links in here for you. And at the end of the video, stay tuned to the end of the video because there'll be more links to videos there. Like the GSGs, I got a lot of videos on the GSG. So then we'll slide this up slowly, and we want that hammer strut right there to get on top of that little plunger that we put in there. So kind of wiggle it around. I like the tweezers. Definitely put some tweezers in your toolbox. There we go. All right, and you can't do this with the hammer cocked. Remember, hammer must be down. So now we're done. Where's my little pin? There it is. All right, so now you notice here we're not lined up just so, because we've got a little pressure on that spring. So I'm going to do is I'm going to press in the mainspring housing, make sure it's nice and flat. Whack it in there with my plastic side of my hammer. Remember, the frames of these guns are an alloy, so they are kind of weak. So be careful with that. Use my punch. Okay, so hammering that in was quite a chore. So I took a look at it. It was not going in very easy. And, you know, my cheap choice of components here was not that great a choice. So I pulled out an extra part. I had a STI 2011 mainspring housing. This is plastic, so it weighs considerably less than this metal piece, which is kind of the way I wanted to go anyway, because I wanted the gun to be super light for the boy to shoot. But the only problem is it has a curvature back here, so I had to grind on it just a little bit. I did all this off camera because I really wanted you to show you how to fit a regular 1911. I took it a step further and modified a component that really wasn't for this gun, for a 1911 frame. It's for a 2011 frame. But I was able to get it in there and it fit perfectly. I mean, once I got that ground down, it hammered in so much nicer. This one here was such a booger bear. I don't know, other than the quality just stinks. So I guess there is something to buying quality parts. But now, putting the snap cap in my magazine, we'll put it in the gun. Let me back out just a little bit on the camera. Put a snap cap in the chamber. I really hate dry firing 22s. And then we'll take our magazine out. So now theoretically it should shoot without a magazine in the chamber, or magazine in the gun rather. So there we go. So now we've got our magazine safety bypassed, and I've got my flat mainspring housing. Extra bonuses, I got a plastic one in here so the gun weighs a little bit less. Granted, it's not much, but overall, once you start reducing weight here and there, it's going to add up. Those little things add up. So I'll put a few more videos about the GSG guns, and be sure and stop by the Facebook page and Google+. I have a whole bunch of pictures and customer pictures, the guys that have bought these magazine components here, and they've sent in their pictures. Really cool guns. I really like what these guys have done to their guns. Just kick ass. So maybe one day I will do some cool finish work to this once I get it all fixed up and ready to go. Well, thanks again, and thanks for watching, and please subscribe for more competition shooting and gun reviews.